Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and it is now the 21st of October. We've got 10 days left of the month. Can you believe this? And yeah, I've got my ring light placed. One of these days I will figure out the right placement of it. Good morning, Pat. Yeah, I'm going to figure this out. And good morning, Joanne. It's another very dark morning, and of course I know the sun is coming up closer and closer to 7:30, so I'm thinking around Halloween I may shift these to I don't know how this works for everybody, but I'm probably shift them to 7:30 because yeah, I'm kind of following the sun with this. Right now I'm watching the sun come up and just kind of trying to use the ring light a little bit, but I think it's going to be more and more difficult as we get on. It's weird because I'm up on time and I have everything set up on time, but then it's like there's like one detail and I'm always running a couple minutes late here, but no worries. Hey, and Sam, hello, good afternoon. Glad that you're be able to come be with us, because I know you had said you might not be for a period of time, so glad here. And Sudha, I'm dark too today. Yeah, it's well, that'll change very quickly as soon as the sun comes up. The room brightens up and everything. Morning. Yeah, this is great. Glad that everybody's here. And I think the only person who's not here right now, unless I missed her again, is Alex. I don't know if Alex is on, but yeah. So we've got So I think we've got just about everybody here. I had a very you're here. Okay. I don't know why it's not showing you when you come on. This is so weird. I was like, because normally it's like I see her name first and then, so I don't know. It's weird. Yay, everybody's here. It's called Fashionably Late by Jim Morrison standards. Yeah, okay, so good. So everybody's here. That's fantastic. I did want to talk first, I think, about, we've got a few things coming up this week, so I want to mention that since everybody here is participating in one thing or another. So it's like, hey, I have a good venue for telling people instead of sending you 20,000 emails. So the Institute for Study of Feminine Myth. Okay, Kate should be on this Thursday with no issues. Same Zoom link that I sent you initially for that class. Same one, it'll work. However, for the seminar, I'm going to probably have to send you a new one because that one was only meant for the 17th and the 24th. So I will send a new one for the seminar, which will be on the 28th this time. And Melissa, hello, good morning. Glad you could join us. So if you're actually doing if you're doing the seminar, that is going to be on La Llorona and the Santa Muerte. And Kate knows a tremendous amount about this. She's done a lot of like on the ground ethnographic studies and stuff. She really knows her stuff. So that will be a very good class. And because she has to go to Mexico, I'm going to be doing her seminar for her, but I'm going to work out the details of that with her. In fact, I have a lot of work. I have a whole long list of things I have to do this week, but today is a day off, and I'm actually going for a family member's birthday today because we just decided, hey, everybody else is retired. Why can't we just do this on Monday? We always had to do it on the weekends before because, everybody was, but for me, I'm not retired, but my days off are Monday, Tuesday. Good morning, April. I was just looking at your reading this morning, actually, Moon and Gemini .llc, and it's literally spot on with the message that I got this morning. Like it's 100% in contact with what I have. So I'm going to talk about that too. The other things I just want to talk about quickly, though, we are on our last week of the intuitive development class is next week. And that's going to be the last one for the online for now. I might offer it again in the future at some point if there's interest. But we had a 10-week session, and then next week will be the last week. I am now offering it. Yes, yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I'm offering the in-person version of that now in Milford. In person at Riverside Wellness and Enchantments. Now we did have a scheduling conflict for the 2nd, so I'm going to have to move something to November 8th. And I think Oh, no, wait. November 8th is a Friday. Okay, first I was thinking it was a Wednesday, but it's actually a Friday. It doesn't feel like 10 weeks. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it went by pretty fast, didn't it? It was fun. That was a really fun group, and we did some fun stuff. Yesterday's talk was a little bit more, I think everybody was a little bit more serious with that one, because that was more about dealing with psychic attack and things like that. And the kind of, what Jake Stratton Kent would call kind of the ooky spooky side of things. But I felt like I wanted to give people some tools that are not difficult to do, if in those kind of circumstances. But it was so we talked a bit about that yesterday, and I think we're going to be finishing up next week, dealing with other kinds of phenomena as well. But because the whole thing is not meant to be that; it's meant to be or dangerous. Yeah, right. Well, this is it. When you do intuitive work, for the most part, I mean, most of us are using it. We're reading cards, or or we just want to sharpen our intuition generally, kind of our general awareness of what's going on, like being able to trust our feelings and tune into things. But at the same time, there are cases, because some people here do work with other kinds of spirits and in other realms, and it's kind of like, okay, it's just good to know, depending on who you're connecting with. If you're connecting with people who call themselves occultists, and I'm not saying that they're not occultists, but while there are a lot of legitimate people on the path who are using it as a seeking path, there are also people who are using it as a means of gaining power, or they're using it, especially, I'm certainly not going to say all male occultists, because that would be completely wrong, because I know quite a few who are not that way at all, who are very good and who are actually very helpful mentors and guides. But then there are others who are in it to show, what kind of muscle they can flex over other people. And holy shit, my husband and I were just discussing this. Yeah, that was the topic of yesterday's intuitive development class. And and so we were just kind of talking about what that looks like. Because there's unintentional psychic attack, and then there's intentional. And most people deal with the unintentional variety. The person who's like the psychic energy vampire who drains you of your energy and things like that. That's not, there's certain ways to handle it. Always the best way to handle everything is just to have good psychological and physical health. Alex says, yep, had that experience last year. Actually, not at all like that, but there are some. Yeah, I've had, just because of the practices I've been in, and again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm in some like super scary practices here. I don't think anything I do is particularly scary. I heard it's like an egregore of Christianity within the structure. Well, certainly the idea of, if people get involved in magic and stuff, and then they start to get kind of a complex, like a messiah complex. I think there's some people who get into Satanism for that reason. They think like, oh, this is going to make me a powerful, like there's a goofy guy who has that course, You Can Be a Living God. I mean, which if you're on Facebook and follow Will Moore, he just like rips, he makes fun of this guy so much in a patriarchal way. Well, yeah, but that's just kind of what it is. The man becomes the little god, and he ends up like trying to have all these little female devotees who kind of, are going to be around him. And it's just like, I've run into that, and I'm just like, no. But some are more subtle than others. Some are just very obviously like, buffoons. Others, they might not, they might be a little more subtle. So anyway, my whole thing is, when I'm working with people, I want everybody to be careful and, with what, obviously if you are in a space where you are feeling vulnerable in that way, and I don't mean vulnerable, like we're talking about vulnerability and opening the heart, but if you're talking about it in a way where vulnerable as in open to attack, quite literally, like, hey, I'm standing there and the bear is right there and I have nowhere to go, then you want to know, what you can do. And what your options are if that kind of a thing happens, that's more immediate, that's not going to require something very elaborate. So so we talked a little bit about that, and I'm going to send those handouts to people today. I kind of glossed over some things for time, but there are things, because we didn't really need to go over them, but it's just there if something occurs. And none of it is anything, mega intense. I mean, there's some mega intense things that I know as well, but you often don't need that. It's kind of like you don't need the flamethrower to kill the mosquito, right? So, it's so there's just different things that you can do. Okay, so I think what I was going to talk about a little bit today. And I want to mention too, tarot class. I had a request for a tarot class. Well, vulnerable in the sense that I don't want to say, not acknowledgeable, but in but in an innocent way. Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, not knowledgeable, but in an innocent way. Like, yeah, like somebody, yeah, who does something very who's doing something like that, but not really knowing what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, well, there's plenty of that out there too. I am doing a tarot class. I haven't quite decided on the dates yet because really, I think I've already got the school going on in the evenings right now. My Saturday afternoons are now in Milford, at least until December. And Pat, yay, tarot. And so we're gonna try to start one, but I've got to try to figure out. I might end up just emailing everybody and saying, okay, what's a good date time for everybody if we end up having to do like an evening or something. There's a word I'm looking for and it's escaping me. I'm not caffeinated enough. Oh, okay. Yes, tarot. And actually it might be kind of nice if I could do it at a time that would actually allow people overseas to be included as well. Because a lot of these are, like if I do it on an evening, it's going to be like midnight in the UK. So it's not gonna really help. Sounds great. Yeah, if you guys want to do that. I'm gonna try to do it. I don't know. I have, because I also have clients who are regulars on the weekend. So I'm just trying to figure out logistically where this can be. And generally I need to be leaving the house by like 2 if I'm going to go to do my class in Milford, because it takes me about half an hour to get there and then I got to sit up. You're up for 3 a.m. tarot. Hey, there you go. I'll do, we'll start at 3 o'clock in the morning. So everyone in the UK can start at 8 a.m. I'm gonna work on a schedule and I will figure that out. And I also know I want to have a dream workshop too. I was trying to do those monthly, but that last month just was too crazy to do it. I did one in August and I did one in September, and I didn't do one for this month. So I want to pick those up again. And again, I want to do those at a time because I do have people in the UK who participate in that, like Ellen. So I want to make sure she can be involved. I have to. And actually, I've got to pay her for the books that she sold too. I'm just remembering that. I have too many irons in the fire. I want to do some promotion of my books too. So I need to do that. Okay, so that's kind of the announcements in terms of what I'm doing in transition life coaching. Interested too in the dream class. Yeah, it's we did a class, and basically what this is if you bring your dreams to this class, we'll do an interpretation. Or we'll kind of do it together as a group. I do have a worksheet if you didn't attend my original class, and then I will give that worksheet out so they kind of catch you up on it. If somebody at some point people want me to offer the original dream class again who didn't get to attend the first one, I can also look into doing that as well, just to catch people up. But anyway, so we will see where all that goes. Okay, so not to be all announcements, I had a very weird thing happen last night, because I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, I was supposed to go to Lambertville, and what happened was my whole lower body has just been in absolute agony. Now, I don't know if this is at first I'm thinking, well, maybe this is from working out, or maybe, and I don't think there's anything like wrong with any of my, internal organs, okay? I don't think that that's it. It does feel like it's just been a tremendous pain I've had, like in the left side, and I do like hip flexor exercises and stuff like that, which does help a little bit. And I do Pilates on a daily basis, and I don't know if I'm overdoing the Pilates. That could be a problem too. Maybe I need a break from it. But when I do these different things, there's just I was sitting there last night. Okay, now Pat's actually going to be interested in this, because there's 2 more words that I did not share that I went and looked up, for my in-person intuitive development class, and it was based on discussions we had in the existing class. Me too, my lower half from working on my feet for years. Well, this is just something new right now. This is not like a long-term thing. Was your pain primarily on Saturday? I had the worst migraine I've had in years on Saturday. Saturday was a day, yeah. Like I said, I was supposed to drive to Lambertville. I was standing up doing a class, and after that, I just found my legs were giving out. I just couldn't do it, Saturday sucked. Yeah, there was something energetically going on, but it was yesterday too. And I feel like there is something else that is kind of going on with me right now that is part of the things that I've been asked not to, my guides have asked me not to talk about. But in any case, it was very weird. And I was going to say, Pat will be interested in this because we were talking about the clair senses, right? And the two that we didn't talk about were, it's called clairolfactants. That's the word for it. That's the technical term for when you can, it's like a psychic sense or an intuitive sense of smell. When you smell something in a room and you're like, what is that? What's that about? Some people will smell roses, or they'll smell cigar smoke, or they'll smell, or a perfume, or just something, that's like that. And so there's clairolfactants, and then there's also clairagustants we didn't talk about, which is when you can taste it in your mouth. If you can taste something that's odd, and it's not as common, but I have heard of people who will do that, who will walk into a setting and suddenly they'll taste something. Does that include burning from fire? Yes, if you smell burning, yeah, that would be a clairolfactant. It's any kind of a smell or an aroma or odor, something that is not, that is not coming from anywhere in your vicinity. I got a lot done and was happy, but had a Mars tantrum 9 p.m. My husband and kid poked the button. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's that's why your Saturday was bad. Got it. So yeah, it was so I have been having them, and it's been a very odd aroma. Like, I've been waking up to the smell, like almost like, and it's a weird it's almost like a clean laundry kind of smell. Like, how there's a certain, like, it's like a fresh kind of an aroma. I can't explain it. And it's not that, it's not like I have anything around that should have that scent. It's not like, I put fresh bed sheets on. I mean, I do put fresh bed sheets on, but usually they've been sitting in the closet, so they don't have that same aroma, But it's almost more like something just came out of the dryer, kind of fresh, It's that kind of but it's a different scent. And when I picked it up, I'm like, and there's also kind of a weird smokiness in with it as well. So you get that, but it's roses. Well, roses is a very specific kind of a scent, and that's actually a divine feminine scent. And that's regardless of whether you think it's a saint, whether it's the guru, like if you have a female guru, the guru appearing, or if it's some other kind of female deity. Clean linen, some of my ancestors have that scent. Yeah. This I was told was actually another angelic presence. And apparently there are 12 of them here right now. Not really totally sure what's going on, but I was sitting downstairs. I've been trying to stay away from TV and stuff lately. I mean, other than to watch certain ones. Oh, wow, I didn't know that, but thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, roses. Although sometimes my mother has smelled roses after her own mother died. So, and that was like a perfume that her mother wore. So yeah, that can be a thing too. Amma smells great. Yes, and sometimes I have been in places where, this is what Tuda was saying, we're talking about Amma, where I have been in a moment where I have been, early, I mean, this is a long time ago, but I remember a moment where I was like, feeling like very in despair about something, and all of a sudden, like, I was completely surrounded by rose scent, and I'm like, okay, there's Amma, she can come in like that. So that does happen, and she has kind of a very almost unique kind of rose scent, but that's there. Wow, yeah, that is something there. But that's not the weirdest part. The weirdest part is I was sitting. Because remember, the first time I smelled it, I was upstairs. I was in bed. And then the second time, I was just downstairs. I had watched a friend's video. He had a very long video, and on his subject. I think it was like 35 minutes today, and normally they're a lot shorter. But I was watching the video, and then I was just watching a couple other things. I was just trying to stay away from like news and stuff like that. I just wanted something that was more light, to watch. But then all of a sudden, that scent came in front of me, and I almost got this feeling like, okay, no, turn the TV off. It's time to go to bed. So I did. And when I did, I literally felt, now mind you, my Reiki was not activated. This was not me. Like, Reiki got activated all in the hip area, like right where I was having the pain. And also, I've got some kind of a thing on my leg. I don't know if it was more poison ivy. I don't know if it's a dermatitis. But it's, I've been trying different things to try to get rid of it. If I can't get rid of it by the end of the week, I'm going to probably have to go to the doctor and have him look at it. And it's only in one little spot. But even that, everything was like it was Reiki. I mean, I know it's Reiki, and it was really intense Reiki. I had 12 people doing Reiki. So it was almost like, it was quite a thing. And I'm like, okay, my Reiki's not activated. Where's this coming from? Somebody's doing this on me. And that was very, very strange. And then I woke up this morning and I mean, there's still a little bit of pain in my left hip, but really the intensity of that pain is gone. And I'll be interested to see what this looks like this morning, if this is actually getting any better. So yeah, it was just like, I just had like this mega, it was like, go lay down, there's a mega dose of healing that we're going to do for you. So that was really interesting. And the messages around it were interesting too, because of course I asked Azrael about it, and the word that he used was upa, which is like the word for wings. It's like there's a lot of wings. There's a lot of wings around you. I was like, okay, that's interesting. But the other thing that came up this morning, and this was kind of the topic I was going to bring up today, was the fact that he said that there's, basically saying, like the laziness card came up a couple of times. And what he was saying was that, I guess, for not that you want people to be walking around like vigilant, but just be in the flow. Yeah, I'm feeling this on top of my head. Just be in the flow. Right now, and kind of let things happen and kind of drop as many expectations, try to get the mind out of the way as much as possible. He said, because there's going to be some very sudden change. And I said, well, is this just going to be sudden change for me? And he said, no, this is going to be sudden change for everybody. Like, there's going to be something that's going to change. Now, one of the events he's pointing to, excuse me, there is... We've been talking about the comet in the western sky. I know Suda had mentioned that she had taken a little ride and was able to see it. I know I saw it one evening. There's a lot of great photos of it that people are posting from where we are. And this comet is, okay, so this one's going away on around, I think they said we'll stop seeing it by the end of October. But there's another one. I don't know if you know about the second one that's become visible. And this one is coming in, and yeah, I'm sorry, my crown is just going off like unbelievably right now. There's another comet that's coming in, and it's going to pass close to the sun. So there's going to be a second comet, which if you want to get into your omens, people, I mean, there's a second comet coming in. No, where is that? Now that's a good question. I'm not quite sure. There's another, yes. And they said it's going to be visible. It's going to pass the sun. Like it's what they call a sun grazer. It goes past the sun. And there's a channel, this guy, Stephen Burns, who talks about geophysics with metaphysics. He talks about the way these things go together. And he had said that this other comet was what they call a sun grazer, and it made all those solar storms happen. So this one we don't know, but it might do the same thing. And for some reason, I'm being told that second storm, which is going to be around the 28th, 29th of October, which is when that comet, that might be when it's actually going to be visible. So you'll probably see more. If I learn more about when and where it's going to be visible, I'll share it with everybody. That is so incredible. Yeah, there's 2 comets in a month that we're going to see. And this one, they said, might even go into the sun. Like, they're not sure, but it's definitely going to go past it. They don't know if it's going to, as it gets close to it, if it's going to kind of burn up as it gets close. Because I think it was a piece of another comet, and they thought it had died out, but suddenly it resurged and it came. 2 comets, 2 moons, solar storms, and the Orionids meteor shower. Yes, the last one of those is a pretty ordinary cyclical event. But, yeah, but those other things, no. I mean, they're definitely not. Yeah, and there could be meteor showers, too. October has been a visual delight. Well, this is it. This is the time, if you've got clear skies, to be out and, and look at them. As somebody said with the comets, catch this one. You're not going to see it again for 80,000 years, so, check it now. So I'm thinking that somewhere middle of this week to beginning of next week, just before Samhain, there's going to be some kind of big shift and change. And I think everybody's going to be experiencing that energetically in a different way. So he's just basically, and for some people, this could actually be, there could be some losses. Now, when I say losses, he's saying no, not financial losses, not people losing their job or anything like that. More like you could be learning about losses of people. I don't know if that's when this harvest he's talking about is going to happen. I mentioned earlier that there were certain souls that were not interested in like they were too tired, and it was like, no, we just want you to come and release everybody who's ready to be released. So there may be something like that. So people might experience something like that. He said, it was Bryn Snapio was the words he used, which are like, the truth is a two-edged sword, so, because as we know, losses are always sad. But sometimes there are things that need to happen. Interesting. I'll be doing my Reiki attunements right before the 28th. Yeah, that's interesting timing. You'll be doing them kind of right on time. You're going to be opening up those chakras at the time. But maybe that's good too, because maybe that'll be something that you can also use as a self-healing as well. So that'll be a really good thing. And also if there's anybody else who needs it, you might be positioned to do that. We've talked a lot about how a lot of people who are going for Rouhani seem to have people who are kind of drawn to healing themselves in a lot of ways, and I feel like that's some people are getting that message. So yeah, so interesting, right? This is what he's saying. So I'm just kind of passing the message on because this is what I was told. And it's not that I disbelieve him. I mean, there's just some stuff going on. Again, the Taurian in me that wants to think like, okay, he's talking about this stuff happening, but it seems very abstract. It doesn't seem very concrete. And then I'm like, oh no, it's starting to seem very, very concrete. So, so that's just me, but will be interesting to see how other people, especially people who are now very intuitively aware and are, working on that actively, will probably be aware of even more things than people who are not. I think for some people who are not, who don't want to change, that's what he's saying. This is not a time to, I think actually, and that might have been what I saw in April's reading, that, yeah, I think she had the Fool as the unconscious element. It was like, you're going to have to, change is happening, whether you want it or not, it's coming. But I don't think it's a bad change. Right. A part of me is in full belief now. These omens speak for themselves. Yeah. And I think there's going to be more that's going to be happening, for people just on a personal level and in their lives. There's going to be, it's going to be unexpected news, there's going to be changes, but I don't want to suggest that they're all negative. But he said some of them could be a double-edged sword. So he's just kind of letting people know. But generally it's like, we may feel like, oh, I don't want to lose this person situation thing, but he's saying, but whatever is lost, it's like, it's because it's time for something new, or if this is a person who is lost, then it's their time. So you can't run from it. It's coming for all of us. Yes, right, exactly. And that's I think kind of the element of it. It's kind of saying, relax into the change. Don't get, I don't want to use the phrase don't get too comfortable exactly, but I do feel like there's going to be changes that we have to respond to. And if we've been rolling with changes now all this time, then this is something that we will, we will be, the more you surrender to what's going on, the more prepared you will be, I guess is what the best way to say that. And just to accept whatever it is that's coming. But yeah, I don't know, I know April, sometimes I know you're not on necessarily every day, but I know there was one day when I was talking about, one of the Azrael messages was just that he said, a visit from me has been requested. That's the phrase that he used, requested. It was like, it was, in other words, it's almost like there's an outcry for a release. So yeah, so he's, I don't know if that's him placing a distance, like, hey, I was just asked to do this, but yeah, there is going to be, and this is going to affect different people in different ways. So, so there could be some changes on that level, and we've been kind of talking about that all month. So, oh dear. Yeah. Yeah, he's what he said. But it sounds to me, the way my friend Jenny had couched it was she had said, well, if we are in a space, if you're talking about ascension, a lot of us are talking about physical symptoms, of either of ascension or at least just moving into this new space. That if I tend to think of it more of an expansion than an ascension, but it's almost like our nervous systems and things are changing, to broaden, to kind of adapt to new stuff that's going on. And I feel like a lot of people may be experiencing that as certain aches, pains, headaches, things like that. And but people who maybe are older or who are very sick, or it may be just kind of like they may be saying like, no, I don't want to go through with this. I don't I can't. I think I likened it to when we upgraded systems at the library, and all the people who had done it like by hand for years were like, forget it, we're retiring, we're out. Like, it's that kind of a thing. And so that's where the request came in. So again, I don't know yet what that looks like, because obviously that's something that's there and happens all the time anyway. But there just might be and I think when we were in the cemetery that time, when I was in the cemetery with Paulina, and she was just like, it's like there's nobody here. It's like even souls that have kind of hung around are also going. So it's that kind of a thing, which I guess is disappointing if you're a ghost hunter, but that's kind of what they're saying. It's kind of like things are kind of refreshing themselves, and people are kind of moving forward and moving on. But he said, but it's not a bad thing. It feels like a double-edged sword, because there's something about it that maybe we've have an emotional attachment to, but it's something that's going to be happening. So again, I don't want to scare people saying, oh, people are all going to have people dying in their families and stuff. I don't want to scare people with that, because I don't even know that that's what that means. But it does seem like there's going to be we're going to be hearing about a lot more of this kind of things that are just going away. So okay. So, so we're at 7:32. I'm ready for whatever changes on the way. Right, me too, actually. And, and so I think he's just saying, like, again, I don't, when the card came up, I don't feel it's necessarily like, don't let your guard down exactly, but maybe it might be, because I don't think people I think what people need to not do is to just be, like, hyper aware of everything around them all the time. I think it's more like, we just kind of have to live our lives, relax into it, and be open to the fact that there's going to be changes, and that we are just equipped to meet them, and to deal with them in whatever form. And of course, those of you who work with me, if you need anything from me, that I'm here. So, because that's what I do, is to help people deal with change. So, so whatever comes up, I guess we'll all see. But that was kind of the time frame he was pointing to. So, I'm like, if I could go with the flow. Well, yeah, it is. It's just, but depending on what the disruption is, it seems like to me, like when they talk about a surprise disruption, it may or may not be something that you're expecting. So, so anyway, we'll see what that's about. But again, this is not to be scary to people. He's not, because he literally used a phrase, I forget what the word is, but it basically translates to something like frown not, which is a really weird, archaic way of saying things. But it's literally like, don't be unhappy. Like, whatever's happening is good. Like, don't sit around and be worried. So, so interesting. So I'm going to do our reading. And I didn't tell our story for today. I'm just going to tell a really quick one. I've been doing the ghost story a day for October, or fairy story, spooky story, whatever, whatever it is. And I had another idea of what I would do today, but what's come into my mind is a story. There's a channel called Scary Fairy Godmother. And I like the content of the channel. I find I don't watch it as much because the woman who narrates it is, I don't know. I mean, she doesn't have a bad voice, okay? There's nothing like wrong with it. Like her cadence is good, and her way of speaking is good. But for some reason, there's just something about her voice that doesn't do it for me somehow. And again, I'm not meaning that to insult her in any way. It's just for whatever reason, I find that I have a hard time listening to her after a while. Maybe her voice sounds too girly to me or something. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But there's something about the pitch of her voice that after a while I'm like, okay, I've heard enough. But again, I don't mean that as an insult to her, because her channel's really great. But she had told a story, and I think this took place in Nova Scotia, and these are true stories that people would bring into her, about some girls who were like on a vacation together, and one of the girls, her family had a house in Nova Scotia, and it was like, I guess they have it as kind of a vacation home, and they were going there, and they they had the keys to the house, and they were going to go in, and apparently their parents were not there yet, so the girls just decided, okay, well, we're just going to go out in the woods, go for a walk, we're going to explore. And they went out, And when they went out into these woods, they came across what looked like this like little cute little cottage, but it looked like it had been abandoned, like in the middle of the woods. And by the way, they'd been through these woods many, many times, so this was not a new space for them. And so they went and they decided they were kind of, they were arguing about whether they should check out this house. And, some of the girls were like, no, we really shouldn't go in there. They didn't have like a great vibe. But the other ones were like, oh no, this would be really cool. And so they went in, and it was kind of an interesting treasure trove. Like, there was furniture and things. It was like nobody lived there, but it was almost like there was so much stuff that was left behind. And so they were walking through the house and they were looking at everything. And then they kind of got the feeling that somebody else might be there. Not that they saw anybody, but they thought, you know what, maybe we need to get out of here. So they get out, they looked at the house, and then they decide, you know what, it's getting late, we're going to start walking back. But as they start walking back, they're walking on the path, and now they're realizing they can't quite remember which way they came in. And so they're walking, and then they're like, no, I remember this landmark, and they're walking. But every time they come back to this house, and at first they're just thinking, they're kind of arguing with each other. I thought you knew where you were going. You're mixed up about the directions and all this kind of stuff. And this went on. And, but every time they thought, oh, okay, now we're going to try this. Okay, the sun's setting there, so that's west, so we're going to go that way. Like, every time they would try to find a new way to get out, they always ended up back in front of the house. And after about the 9th time, where they were absolutely exhausted, they were absolutely freaking out. And this was the point at which, and of course by this point it's dark, and this was the point at which somebody, and I think this is how it goes, I can't quite remember, but somebody had kind of, they were just trying to figure out why the heck they couldn't find their way out. And somebody had the idea of kind of turning their coats inside out or doing something like that, which, by the way, I won't spoil it, but yeah, so they did, because of what they thought might be going on here. And because there had been some rumors about these woods and about, the beings and the creatures that live there. So they turned them inside out, and then they were able to get away and to find the path out. Okay, now, spoiler, that's fairy activity. Okay, when you do that, that tells you that the fairies have put a glamour over you. So that house in some way was connected to that. But the kicker was, when they finally got back to their house, the parents were freaking out because they thought they had just been walking around for a few hours. They were apparently gone for over a week. So, yeah, freaky stuff, right? Kind of what we talk about with the fairies and with time. And it's a great story to hear told, because it's just like they go there and then they're back in front of the house, and just the panic in them just starts increasing until they have to figure out, like, I have to get out of here, So it was a very interesting story. As I told you, I had a relatable story in Ireland, but fortunately it wasn't that kind of a time lapse or a time gap. But just try to imagine, like, being lost and people not being able to find you for a week, and you think you're just gone for a couple hours, We hear about that kind of stuff with alien abductions and stuff too, but we won't talk about those right now. Okay, so let's do our reading for today. It's my little spooky story. Our central card is the Ace of Cups, going with the flow. Okay, so literally that's just what we were just talking. Spooky as heck. Yeah, I know. And that's why I'm always, when you work with fairies, it's like you want to be super respectful to them, but be very careful. And if you are somebody who, like, invites them into your ritual space, make sure you say, okay, nice to have you, bye. Like, just, make the boundary clear, because, it's fine to invite them in, but then you want to do that. So, yeah. And I do actually have a fairies class that I usually get to on working with fairies, but anyway, but that might be for another time. So going with the flow, and weren't we just talking about going with the flow? And it's Ace of Cups, so this is actually a new beginning that is from the heart space, right? This is from the heart space. And the inner feeling of which we're unaware is, we've got this politics card, and we showed this in class yesterday, the 7 of Swords. And I think maybe, and that might be the reason they will create chaos. Oh, the fairies? Absolutely. Yeah, they're not, it's like fairies and angels, any of these kinds of other beings, liminal beings or intermediary beings. They're not the cutesy Christmas card Victorian things that people tend to think. So I don't mean that to say that they're bad and evil, but you have to be very careful about working with these energies. They're not. It definitely can be chaotic. Okay, so we have this Seven of Clouds here, or the seven, which is swords. And so, so if we've got this as our center card, we are at this new beginning. We are at this vulnerable place, right? We are going with the flow of whatever this change is, but we have an inner kind of a saboteur. We have somebody who wants to play politics. And oftentimes this is that inner part of us that wants to negotiate with why we shouldn't make that change, why we shouldn't move forward, or what we think the dangers might be of moving forward. But remember that that's the inner saboteur, the one that says, either trying to convince you it's not happening, or convincing you that you need to just stay right where you are, like you shouldn't make any changes, that you have a reason to be afraid, that you have different things. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean everything is sunshine and rainbows, but at the same time, this is almost that side of you that's trying to negotiate. If you think about it in terms of the grieving process, okay? What is the grieving process? You start with denial, anger, acceptance, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Those are the 5 stages. And in spite of what people think, it's not like they're necessarily linear in how they work. It's almost like that's the bargaining phase. That's the phase where we say, okay, well, maybe I can move forward, but maybe if I can just keep this thing from the past, maybe I don't have to change this one thing. Maybe I can still get around and do the new thing and not let go of this old thing. And this is kind of saying, no, don't let that negotiator play with you, and don't let the self-sabotage telling you you can't do this. That, to me, that's always the energy of the Seven of Swords, the one who kind of internally is making you doubt the direction that you're going in, and makes you think like, you need to play it safe. And again, I'm not saying that you have to play it dangerous, but this idea that that somehow there's something not right about this new space, right? But we're going with the flow. We're moving into the heart space. And the external feeling of which we are aware is the Emperor, okay? So what do we have with this card? This is the Rebel card. The Emperor is breaking his chains, okay? So whatever's going on here, this is breaking the chains of the past. And as we've talked about, this is breaking the chains through love. Okay, we're approaching things now from the heart and not so much from the head. We're in a space where we are talking about working together rather than working against each other, right? And that is almost an act of rebellion in a system that says that you have to take sides, or in a system that says you have to be afraid of the other, or you have to be afraid of the other side. Or everybody's the other is demonized to a degree that is it certainly doesn't make life on Earth very tenable if everybody's going to be at cross purposes, and it's just going to be a matter of power grabs and corruption and then trying to figure out who's the corrupt side and so forth. But even just in our personal lives, the Emperor is an energy of taking charge, right? It's a call to leadership. It's a call to being who we are. The Rebel is also about being what your heart wants. Okay, you need to be what your heart wants here. And the advice card, Two of Cups, friendliness. Okay, this is not a time to. There's a lot. I think a lot of us are we've been talking a lot about solitude and this need to be in a space where we have some time to integrate the new and the old. But it's but we're kind of trying to. But a lot of times we feel that being strong means that we have to do everything by ourselves. Okay, we may feel that in order to be strong, that we have to kind of disconnect from people. We have to kind of, we have to go it alone. You have to be, I have to show that I can stand on my own 2 feet with nobody else. And yeah, sure. You do want to be centered in yourself and feel strong and feel confident. But this is also about working with other people. This is also about reaching out, not about pulling back. And the outcome card we have is the King of Rainbows, or the King of Pentacles. And this is the card of abundance. And in this particular deck, this is known as Zorba the Buddha, okay? This is, it's like, the idea of the very sensual person combined with the Buddha. And that's the meaning of this card is. It's the person who is spiritual, but also fully enjoys the world, fully enjoys life. And that is also a balancing of masculine and feminine, by the way. If we think of the celestial realm as being more masculine, fantastic card, love the energy. Yeah, as what Tuda's saying here, yeah. It's, there's the celestial masculine and then there's the terrestrial feminine. And this is literally the foundation of what I talk about in my book. Eric Neumann, who is one of Carl Jung's students, I talked about that, and actually in my dissertation I support it through linguistics and everything else. We tend to view what's in the sky and heavenly as masculine, and we tend to view what's on Earth as feminine. But actually, these are forces that work together. They're not forces that are supposed to be opposed. It's not. Because the mythology for years is Earth bad, heaven good, right? Earth, well, hell's under the earth, and all this stuff, and so and it's a place of sensual pleasure and stuff, and it's a trap. It's just gonna suck you into this and that. And, we've heard this rhetoric before, and its most extreme form was with a group called the Cathars, a group that. I don't know. I've heard arguments about how Gnostic they really are, but they were a group that thought, that had this idea that spirit's good, matter evil, and which is why the upside down pentagram, by the way, is considered to be a sign of devil or evil because it points downward. The upward points towards spirit. The downward one points back towards earth. So the perception there is that represents evil, but it doesn't represent evil. It's just pointing. It's a symbol of incarnation. It's a symbol of moving into that space, and we associate the feminine with that. And if you look in the culture and all of the ways, all the things that we disenfranchise, see as a weakness, phallic worship law. Yeah, and and that definitely is and has been a thing. Phallic worship and sun worship that tend to go together. There's been a lot of talk recently about the. I don't necessarily want to call it the black sun because I don't think that's accurate. I think it's just the negative aspects of sun and sun worship, whether you're and what that can mean in its forms that are not that are toxic, I should say. There can be a lot of toxicity in that. I have actually a story that I've written about that I've not published, but and I don't know if I'm going to publish it this year or not, but. And I can't remember the title I gave to it. I'm trying to remember what I called it, but it does focus on the idea of somebody who seems to be this very kind and gentle kind of savior figure. But then when he's challenged in a certain way, you just see how absolutely vicious this person is and can be. Ooh, publish it. Yeah, I have to finish it, but it's dark, and some parts of it that I have right now are very, very graphic. And I'm like. I'm always with do I want to publish these parts? Am I going to freak people out too much with this? But yeah, I like to write stories where, our outer judgments of people are not what they appear to be. But yeah, it's the idea of this kind of solar deity, and we always think of the sun as representing light and positivity and so forth, but that there's also a very negative side to that as well, potentially. So. Yeah, so we are talking about abundance, and abundance means that we're in balance with both of those elements. We are recognizing the beauty of the earth, the joy of the earth, the wonder of it, and being able to enjoy ourselves without feeling guilty, without feeling ashamed. I mean, if you listen to your own body, you know what your limitations should be. It worked well for Stephen King, yeah, right? Well, yeah, that's true. It's, whatever your limitations are. You need to, your body knows. Other people don't need to tell you what they are a lot of the time. Like I said, we know this is about finding our own balance, and it's about finding balance with everything else that's going on. But it's also about integration. It's about integrating all the material that we have, including what we think of as the bad stuff. Our wounds have a place too. And so, yeah, so this is definitely a movement towards integration. But again, with the Ace of Cups in the center and going with the flow, this is an opening of the heart. So we do have to be open to whatever's going on. If we are closed off to it, it could end up being something that's more more difficult for us than it needs to be. So we want to kind of keep open hearts to what is coming up and what changes are happening. So so that's our reading for today. And we're at 7:51, and I actually have somewhere I have to go at 10 o'clock. So thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. I always enjoy these morning coffees. It's always a lot of fun. And hope the reading resonates and makes sense. And I will see everybody tomorrow morning. Oh, you're welcome. And and there'll be more information on everything I talked about at the beginning as we get to the end. So you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. And so thanks and beautiful. Yes, you're welcome as well. And so, you're welcome. I'm so glad you could join me for the whole thing. Everybody have a wonderful start to your week, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Take care.